First bike that I owned actually was a Yamaha 80. It was kind of cool because they sold get parts, the GYT get parts for it. So I remember buying a cylinder head, high compression head, and whatever little tidbits they had to put on and hop it up, of course. It was a lot of fun. You know, as I grew up, a lot of the kids around my neighborhood were racing on the weekends, going out riding for fun, but also trying to find the local race. And I would go with them, and my bike really wasn't suitable for racing, but one of the dads had a bike that he let me race one time, and first time, and happened to be pretty muddy that day. It didn't go so well for me. Did a face plant. When you wear glasses, face plants in the mud are never good, but it was fun nevertheless. But it kept my interest really going in motorcycles. So I got involved in professional racing. Really, it was a little bit of a career change. In high school, I was very much into automotive. I was an assistant teacher in the after-school programs for adult learning for automobiles. And right when I graduated, I was offered a job by Ford Motor Company. I really didn't want to make the automobile a part of my life, so I went to work at a motorcycle shop in Lakewood. Very shortly after opening, it closed down, and the mechanic guys were personal friends and lived with my mom and me, and they were hired by the factory Suzuki, and they just started their racing team. And so, you know, I got to hear about all the things that were going on. Roger DeCoster and Garrett Wolsink and Willie Bauer, all those guys were riding for Suzuki at the time, and that really got me wanting to do that. So I put an application in over there, and it took a year and a half or something, really. I was almost ready to quit, and I was hired into the racing department. And we actually won the first Suzuki championship in the U.S. in motocross. So that kind of started things, and you know, it went on from there. I was offered a job at Yamaha to be Bob Hanna's mechanic. He was a pretty serious guy. I think Bob, if you knew his background, you know, he's pretty direct. Not a lot of sugarcoating with things. That's kind of who I am too. If you know me, I don't have a lot of time for chit chat. So sometimes, so we really got along really well, and both of us were like alpha personalities. You know, we wrestled a lot. We were very physical, but it became a really, really good, close relationship. So it's one that we still have today. Well, the championships that I won working for Bob Hanna, there were 5 of them, and he started in 1977. Every time he got on the bike, he could win, so that puts a lot of pressure on the team or the mechanic and myself, you know. But they were really good years. Supercross was a big deal. Lots of people, 70,000 people in the stands cheering, and he got the nickname of the Hurricane, and they put these flags up all over the country, you know, in the stadiums, and he was quite the fan following because he was so much better than everybody else on the track. The lifestyle with Bob was just so unique, I think, is that in the initial years he was traveling in the box van with me from location to location, not always a race, going to people's friends' houses around the U.S. and using their garage as a base and going testing at tracks near them. And you know, there was a lot of effort on both of our parts put into that. And then my wife, I got married, and Vicky, who I met here at Yamaha, started traveling, and you know, we were just this unit. You know, Vicky was doing his laundry and cleaning his stuff, and I'm working on the bike, and Bob's, you know, running and training and, you know, getting himself ready. And so every one of those moments brought something fun, whether it was a food eating contest or you know, model airplanes were a big part of our life. That was our getaway. We used to buy used planes and then thrash them and glue them back together and buy more new ones. You know, you're living on the road for 9 months out of the year. You got to have some things to do, and it was just a never-ending story after story. You could write books if you could remember it all, you know. And I'm sure they've all changed a little bit over the years, but obviously a really special time in my life, my wife's life too, you know. So, you know, when motocross segued into 4 strokes, they became pretty important to Yamaha. This was an idea on a piece of paper with all the engineers that they could do such a thing. And it started off with prototypes, which we had sent them our current two-stroke race bikes as comparison bikes to make sure that the performance was going to be equal to or greater than what we were using at the time. And so we got an exemption with the AMA to race a prototype four-stroke, and Doug Henry was the guy, and we tested for months, prior to that, and it was quite a learning experience. But one thing that we knew is that there was really something special about this bike, and Doug Henry had come very, very close, to wanting to race this thing in Supercross, and it all really came together at the last race, 1997. In Las Vegas, and the track couldn't have been any better for a four-stroke. It was super dry, super slippery like Las Vegas gets, and Doug just, started well and just aced the race. He put it on the map, and then Yamaha really had to take that year of exemption and turn it into production, which they were able to do the following year, which was pretty incredible for any company, because the companies that tried four strokes in the past had very miserable results. So Yamaha did really well. The transition to road racing for me was, I think, very natural, because when I took over all the things here, I'd gone to some races as a supervisor guy, and kind of started getting a feel for what we needed. And the other important thing, and I guess this even went on with the motocross, is my background was really four-stroke stuff. Automobiles were four strokes, and so, I was pretty intimate with how they worked and, what they needed, and to hop them up and that sort of thing. So even when our motocross bikes became four strokes, it was all very natural for me, not so much for everybody else that didn't have a four-stroke background, but I think that really played well into my strengths. Yeah, I think the most memorable experience for me in road racing, really, I think it's always your first. When Josh Hayes was racing for us, I remember the year before we won the championship, we were kind of getting our act together. The team needed to gel a little bit. We were trying to make some changes, and Josh ended up finishing second behind Matt Mladen, if I'm not mistaken, that year. So we all felt very good about our chances, in the next year. And I think it was 2010, if I'm not mistaken, was his first championship. And it's pretty funny to go look at the bike then as compared to where we ended up with Cameron's most recent championship. The changes, and not only in the equipment, the R1 model, how it evolved, but just the overall looks and our professionalism as a team. So I think that one's always going to stick out as really special. And it's like we had such a dry spell in road racing that when you get that first one, that's all you're thinking about. And then to have to come back the following year, it was really overwhelming, I think, and nobody probably expected us to win. But when we won the second one, I think it was an astonishment of the whole team, because it's like now they knew they belonged, and so that's kind of, there's a lot of one-time flyers out there, and nobody ever wants to be that, but this team did really well, and we continued to grow as a group, and we ended up winning 10 national championships over the 11 years that we were doing it, so pretty special. The one, again, moments that stick out for me at Yamaha really are the career development of different people, whether it's a rider, a young rider who needs somebody there, or an employee who needs some support. But I would say, for me, I think that's probably been my happiest moments, is seeing the development of the different guys along the way. And sometimes it's time to say goodbye, and sometimes it's you say hello, and you just do the best you can while you have them. And I think I've had some guys come back to me and say, while they didn't understand at the time what I was trying to say or do, after they left, they really got it, and they appreciated and thanked me for what they got out of it. So I think that's, anytime that happens to you as a manager, it's pretty special.